has begun. Woo. Big bag going to Hassan Reddick, who was with the Jets.
Kinda.
Eagles to the Jets, doesn't step foot in the building, but he gets traded for, which a beautiful depiction of the ineptitude that was happening at the Jets. Not that that's going to continue, just saying it certainly did take place. He is now on a one-year deal for $14 million with $12 million guaranteed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Drew Rosenhaus negotiates that deal. Congrats to Hassan Reddick, and congrats to us getting to see him play football again.
Yeah.
There were some videos of him training. Seems like he's still in it. Takes a year off of ball. Now he's potentially back with the Bucs. $12 million guaranteed. Good for him.
Yeah, it's great. It's great for the Bucs because they need pass rushers. A lot of upside there with the one-year deal. Is that Twitter?
That didn't look like Twitter.
I don't know.
Looks like a thread.
Oh, that's Threads. Yeah, X is done.
On free agency day?
Yeah, free agency frenzy Monday. X being down. This is punch directly in the nuts. I mean, this is a tough go here, and it started a couple hours ago. We get on X. We expect a lot of news to be breaking, and I posted on Instagram like, hey, X being down on this particular day. Okay, it just can't happen. All right, so Elon needs to figure it out. The team over there needs to figure it out for sure. It seems to be still down, kind of intermittent, coming and going. That is not good for any of us that are in the news world. Once I posted on Instagram, I had a lot of people tell me, X isn't that good. Okay, you don't do news every day. X is the news. That is the news platform. And it doesn't mean you have to be part of it, but with us having to know everything that's basically going on around sport, X is the spot. X is the place that, kind of breaks everything hours and maybe even days before everywhere else does. So that happening right now is a nightmare. But don't you fear. Bubba Gumpino has his Threads account up and running.
Attaboy.
Shefty's posting on there. I believe Rap's posted on there as well. I heard some people over on Blue Sky. All these things don't really serve a purpose until the moment comes. And now the moment has come. Shout out to Threads making this magic happen. And shout out to you, Gumpy, with the Splunker on, trying to get to the bottom of everything.
Yeah, it's great. Unfortunately, I can't get a video out on X right now either. So things are going great.
Ladies and gentlemen, another big bag alert. Jaylon Moore, former offensive tackle for the 49ers, has signed a deal with the Chiefs. 2-year, $30 million, including $21 million fully guaranteed at signing with the Chiefs per sources. The deal was negotiated by John Persley and Brian Mackler of Sports Stars.
Hell yeah.
Don't be a sports reg. Be a sport star, says John and Brian Mackler. Jaylon Moore heads over to the Kansas City Chiefs. We knew the Kansas City Chiefs were going to invest in the offensive line. Now, they got rid of Joe Thuney and traded him to Chicago. Shout out to Chicago getting an all-pro. They put the tag on Trey Smith at guard. Because of the way the franchise tag works, he's getting paid 24-point-something million to play guard, which is by far the most money a guard is making around the league. They'll still try to negotiate a long-term deal with him. Creed Humphrey at the middle. Now Jaylon Moore of the Niners at tackle. And if you go back to the Kansas City Chiefs losing the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the exact same reason that they lost the Super Bowl this year, which is they couldn't protect Patrick. They had no offensive line. They immediately invested in the offensive line, and then they would win 2 more Super Bowls after that. That's what the Chiefs are doing. It's kind of a part of their game plan. Like the Jaylon Moore signing. Don't know a lot about him, but I like that they're investing in a tackle for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, definitely got to wait for AQ to give me the breakdown on him. But, yeah, you got to protect 15. You got to protect the franchise. You mentioned the 2 Super Bowls they lost. That was the reason why. And after Josh Allen getting his new deal, you would also anticipate Patrick Mahomes getting a hefty pay raise soon as well.
Yeah, and once you hear the conversation we had with Bean, it's interesting what Josh Allen was saying to Bean every time a new deal came around for a quarterback position. Speaking of a new deal, we have another
Jeez Louise!
Bag alert! Chris Godwin is going back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 3 years, $66 million, chance to make 24 deal done by Tory Dandy. $44 million guaranteed at signing. Congratulations to Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
Penn Stater, obviously known for his work down at Tampa Bay. He's a slot. He can go outside. He's tough. He's smart. He's beloved by his teammates and by the locker room. There's a lot of people that were hoping Chris Godwin would potentially be coming into their building, including and not only the New England Patriots, which is why the deep sigh came immediately upon reading Chris Godwin going back to the Bucs. Congrats to Light getting that deal done. Congrats to Baker having him as an option yet again. And congrats to Chris Godwin getting paid as a guy who's worked his ass ass off over the years to be the best teammate, best wide receiver he could possibly be down there in the Bay.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing it feels like with Chris Godwin is like the culture type of guy. Like I think we all remember when he got hurt this year, immediately while he's getting carted off with his leg in an air cast, he actually said, and they pitched it up on the broadcast, like, time to go back to work. And I feel like especially when you guys talk about rehab and how much it sucks, and he's had an ACL recently, and then he had this bad injury last year as well, and right away just ready to put in the hours. That's kind of one of those guys who was the top wide receiver in that kind of echelon, especially for a team like New England. I know Pittsburgh, Tony was another team that wanted Chris Godwin, but yeah, just one of those guys that just works his ass off, and awesome for him. He's going back to Tampa without any of that income tax.
Mike Evans still down there. Baker Mayfield still down there. Look out for the Bucs. Are we thinking about the Bucs maybe going on a run? What else? What other moves they make? We shall see. Keeping Godwin down there. Big message to everybody.
Big message. You keep your core playmakers intact. Obviously coming back with the quarterback. Now the big thing is moving on. You got another OC coming in following Liam Cohen, who did a tremendous job, and that's why he got hired down in Jacksonville. But I'm glad to see Chris Godwin got his well-deserved money, even coming off of that ugly injury. Got $44 million guaranteed. That's a good deal for Chris.
Yeah, great for like an OC too, who doesn't have to change that much.
Yeah,
like now it's another wide receiver that knows the offense in the system. You don't have to like kind of go through that entire thing. And with McMillan came on at the end when Godwin was hurt.
Yeah.
Their rookie from Washington, that third guy, and so that they're kind of prepped to run that division again.
Myles Garrett signed a $40 million per year deal back to the Cleveland Browns. Congrats to him. Hard money. I do wonder, Nicole Lynn, his agent, who we've reached out to, hopefully, absolute beast. Absolute beast, Nicole Lynn. I've reached out to her about joining our show to talk about how this came together. She said she would like Myles to be the first person to talk about the deal, and then she would obviously enjoy. Myles isn't her only client, and if you are with Nicole Lynn, you are going to get the bag. I mean, that is Mulugeta, Nicole Lynn, Rosenhaus. They're starting to become a separator in who's who in the agency world. $40 million a year for a game record. I don't think anybody expected that. Now, we all know the story. Myles came out and said, I ain't doing it anymore. I seen Joe Thomas. I'm watching Batonia. I see these Browns fans. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be known as a guy that was just really good at football and then never won. I want to win. I want to have some relevancy. I want to dance under confetti sometime. I want to experience the biggest stage. I want to be a Super Bowl champion. And you can't blame him for saying that. You can obviously appreciate and respect the competitor that he is for saying that. And then, Andrew Berry came out, the general manager for the Cleveland Browns, and he said, there's no world where Myles Garrett is not going to be a Cleveland Brown. End of story. Then Myles Garrett said, I want to talk to the owner. I want to talk to Hassan. Hassan said, I ain't got time for you, buddy. Okay? You're going to have to go talk to Andrew Berry. There's a bureaucracy here. So we thought it was ugly. We thought it was going to be nasty. And then we open our phone and we see, holy hell, Myles Garrett said, yeah, I ain't going to give me $40 million. If it's going to be $40 million a year, I will. I guess go Browns. Go Browns.
Yeah.
None of us have any idea how they're going to be able to win with how much money they're giving to Deshaun Watson and how much money they're giving to Myles Garrett. And obviously, this is something that Andrew Berry and that team's going to have to figure out with some salary cap gymnastics, like how do they even field a team at this point. But Howie with the Eagles has been able to showcase that you can pay a lot of people. Now, this is a different level of money at a different position that I don't think we expected to get to 40 just yet. 35 is where Max Crosby was.
Yeah.
Now it jumps up to 40. What does this mean for TJ and Micah and Trey Hendrickson and Aiden Hutchinson, I guess, who is certainly in negotiations? It means it's good news for them. I don't think any team is going to match what the Cleveland Browns did here, just like with what happened after Deshaun Watson's new deal. But this certainly sways it in their favor in negotiations. So congrats to all parties, and congrats to Myles being like, $39.5 million. You go over that per year, I'll come back and get 40. I don't want to win. All right, fine. Let's go ahead and do it. But hopefully they win. Myles Garrett is a guy who can win games for you. Congrats to him. Congrats to all the defensive ends / pass rushers.
Yes, we just talked about kind of the hierarchy when it comes to who pay, why pay, the position, and if you can impact the passer, you're going to get paid the big bag. Now, $40 million, like you said, I don't think anybody jumps that this year. But I think some people will get close. Micah's there. TJ's in that conversation. Hopefully Hendrickson gets some respect. and you talked about big boy out there and Big Hutch out there in Detroit. But yeah, this is crazy for Cleveland. Now they gotta hit on the quarterback. I think you a quarterback away. Obviously, you always got to have that guy at the trigger man position. If they hit on the quarterback in this draft, I think they can contend pretty soon here.
Now, to be clear, you're going to get taxed if you're a shit team, okay, by players. You're going to have to overpay. And Cleveland had to overpay with Deshaun because Deshaun's people and Deshaun said, we're not going to Cleveland. We're going to go elsewhere. So then they come back over the top with a ridiculous offer. And Deshaun's like, okay, if they're going to $230 million guaranteed, yeah. Fully guaranteed contract? Yeah. Okay, I guess we have to do that. Same thing happens here with Myles. Bad teams sometimes are going to have to overpay. That is just a matter of fact whenever you're thinking about players, great players, legacies, you name it. This is an absurd number. We assume pass rusher is going to get to this number at some point. It's here now. Congrats to Myles. Once again, can they win? We have no idea. That's a lot of money to go to a pass rusher, but you're going to give that money to somebody. Why not give it to a guy that can take over a game? Now, does he take over every game? No. Do the Browns win a lot of games with him on the team? No. Does that mean they'll be different next year? Maybe. We have no idea how this goes down, but congrats to Myles getting life-changing cash for not only he, but the rest of defensive ends.
Well, and what we talked about before, like quarterback is the number one position to get paid, and then the position we listed right after is pass rusher. So it does make sense that he's getting that much money. To D-But's point, getting that rookie quarterback right, having that contract for a little bit might kind of cancel this out. But another thing people pointed to immediately was Duke Tobin over the weekend saying Jamar Chase, he's going to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Then this deal comes out, and now you wonder if the Bengals are like, okay, shit, now we might be screwed. We might have to move on from, T. Higgins because a lot of people are thinking they're going to be able to pay both of them. But if Jamar's going to fetch, $40.1 million, then maybe not.
Yeah, and T and Jamar both knew that what Duke was saying was probably just, a little capping.
He's capping?
He's a little capping out there. Probably a little bit of capping.
We'll see.
Ideally, he said we want to do this. If Jamar gets $41 million a year or $40.1 million a year at wide receiver, I mean, okay, makes sense. How do they go about the rest of the roster? That is up to Duke Tobin. This does affect immediately the Pittsburgh Steelers and T.J. Watt, who's seemingly next in line with the contract deal. $40 million is the going rate. What do you think Omar Khan does with this? They just paid $30 million a year to a wide receiver who's done nothing for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Correct.
Would they pay TJ $40 million a year for carrying the Pittsburgh Steelers whenever he's playing football? We shall see TBD.
Yeah, it's crazy because Max got that 35, and then Myles gets the 40, and you would think TJ would be closer to that 40 because he is in that Myles category as far as sacks and pressures and defensive player of the year awards and things like that. So you would think he would be closer to that 40. TJ is going to be 31 in this upcoming season, so like 40 million a year, that is crazy to think, but the cap is going up so much every single year, and Omar Khan is a wizard. I think it's something that they can get done. I think they have to get done. I mean, he's a legacy Steeler player. I don't see a situation where they're going to trade him or let her walk or whatever. But like JJ was on the show last week and said, the Steelers could have got this deal done last year for a lot less, which, we are starting to hear that a lot. There was a tweet about the Bengals getting their deals done a year earlier. Like, I think we're seeing more and more like what the Eagles get done with their players a year earlier. Like, it pays. Actually, it saves money to pay guys early rather than later.
Yeah, it pays to save.
Bingo.
And to save, you got to do it earlier.
Yes.
And get your deals done. That is seemingly the kind of thread about this particular offseason and free agency frenzy. Speaking of, top center and free agency is currently off the board.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got another big bag. Falcons center Drew Dalman is headed to the Bears to become the NFL's second highest paid center. Dalman gets 3 years, $42 million, with 28 guaranteed in a deal done by Steve Carrick of Wasserman. Dalman, the center from the Falcons, was obviously the hot commodity in the center conversation for this particular free agency. They bring in Tooney, they bring in Jonah, now they bring in Dalman. They are investing heavily in the offensive line of Chicago because Ben Johnson just came from Detroit, and their biggest weapon was how great their offensive line was. With how good the offensive line is, then everything else was able to go. Wanted to send a message to Caleb Williams, hey buddy, we're going to protect you. We don't want you to die like you did last year. But Ben Johnson's also sending a message to all of Chicago, hey listen, in polls, hey listen, We know we got to be a physical football team. It's Chicago. And we've been trying to be finesse and all this other stuff, invest in wideouts and wideouts and wideouts and wideouts. Now they're investing in offensive linemen. Love this move from the Chicago Bears. And a lot of people that needed offensive line help, especially at the center position, bummed out about Dalman going to Chicago, but Chicago should be pumped.
I loved it. AQ spoke glowingly about this guy last week when I asked him about the available O-line. He said this would be the top guy on the board. And when you commit that type of money to the interior of the offensive line, you're protecting that quarterback to where he can step up, he can play on time. Now you're in a position in the draft where you can probably take a dynamic 3-down running back. And I think that'll really put this offense. Obviously, you still have to do things on defense, but the offensive line, you got Caleb. We'll see what you got with that young quarterback going into his second year. Ben Johnson, we know he's a great play caller. But then if you get a dynamic running back on there with DJ Moore and Roman Dunze on the outside, this offense could be special.
To your point, it frees them up in the draft because like all the mock drafts before this had them taking like Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State, as they needed an interior lineman, and now that they have all those filled, they could take a situation where it's like best available player, the best available player for their team. So like all this, it makes their O-line great, which is huge for Ben Johnson. And number two, it frees them up in the draft to take them best available. They're not pigeonholed into taking an offensive lineman at that spot.
Love what Poles and Johnson are doing in Chicago. You know, what's the future of Chicago? We shall see. Ben has an offense that is seemingly unstoppable if you can protect the quarterback and if you can run the ball.
Got to run the ball, and then the play action opens up everything.
And I love that Ben is acknowledging that. Will Caleb be able to be a play action quarterback? Excited to see that as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean,
got to turn your back to the defense. That's the. It doesn't get chatted about a lot. Like the old school quarterback, the pocket quarterback, the thing that they have the capability of doing that these, I don't want to say these young, more athletic, dynamic quarterbacks don't either have to do or haven't had to do is turn their back completely to the defense. Because you don't want a dynamic quarterback to do that. You actually want them to see everything so they can make everybody miss. But play action, being able to just shut off any fear, having your back completely to the defense, and then turning and then having to read what's going on after doing that, that is what Jared Goff was phenomenal at.
And then throws it right to St. Brown, right down the middle every single time. That's the whole offense right there.
Peyton, Tom Brady, Goff.
Yep.
This is what this offense is. Now, you add the dynamics of Caleb Williams. I think we're all excited to see what Ben Johnson does with Caleb on top of that. But with the way they're building this, it feels as if we are going to have a play action element. Excited to see how Caleb handles that. I think he's going to be great, but I'm just saying that's an added thing that he's going to have to figure out and work on.